You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. Today, I am your host, BDLG. Red could not be here with us today. He sounds like a grizzly bear coming out of hibernation. So we have myself and Danny boy. Danny, welcome, man. How are you today, dude?
I'm good, thank you, man. I'm good. Bringing some hair to the podcast this week. Let's go.
You definitely are. A little hair, maybe a little personality since Red's gone. You know what I mean? I'm just kidding. We missed you, Red. He's back in the back listening in right now. Sorry he couldn't be here today, so you guys are now stuck with myself and Danny. But today we're going to talk a little bit about news. We're going to talk about the PTR, our experiences on the PTR so far. There's a lot of good stuff to break down in this episode. So let's, Danny, let's go ahead and jump into the news. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. So Red's behind the scenes doing the drops. I have no idea if I interrupted or not. If I did, it's fine. We'll just keep the party rocking. I can't see the drops. So, Danny, they had a little bit of, we have a little bit of news today, not a lot, but we had a little bit of news on Twitter. It was the winner of the Aeturnum Abode contest, or at least I think that's what they're calling it, right? The best Aeturnum Abode. So they picked three winners here. They picked Disdainful Cat, Gnarly Rita, and Alias Node won the best Aeturnum Abode. And I'm assuming that's first, second, and third place. Or maybe that's all first place, I think. I think they all tied, maybe, is what happened there, right?
I think so, yeah. They gave some honorable mentions as well, but these three, yeah, they came in up top, yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations to them. There is also some honorable mentions. Pixel Cave Gaming, Alexa Yaren, maybe, Slaybell, NW, and Reikio. I'm sure I'm butchering those names, but there they are. You can go check them out on the New World Twitter. Danny, what was your opinion about this event and the winners of this event? Because I have my opinion, but I'll save that for a minute. Let's hear what yours is, man. What do you think about it?
Yeah. I think it's cool because it's part of the game that I think is pretty well made. Like, it works most of the time. I haven't spent too much in there, but when I've been in there, it seems to work, and things place very nicely and all that sort of stuff. So it's a cool part of the game that not all of us get into. So it's really nice to see what people have been up to. I haven't done much in my house. So it's a lot of the pieces I've never seen before. So it's content in the game that I didn't know existed, and it's cool because you play the game for so much. You're like, oh man, I've seen it all. But then something like this comes out and I haven't. So I think over to you. But I just a quick shout out, I guess. You showed me before we jumped on Pixel Cave's his house, his tavern, or their tavern, whoever's done it together, and that's it's kind of right up my street as well. It looks brilliant, but it's cool.
Yeah, I agree, man. I haven't gotten into the housing thing yet either. I'm 1,300 hours into the game and still haven't really gotten to the housing. I still am just a poor boy that owns the $5,000 houses, but I do things in steps. We've talked about this before on the podcast. My brain works in a weird way. I compartmentalize things. I do things in steps until they're done, and I'm almost to the point of being able to buy some very large homes. That's kind of the next step in my New World progression. And whenever I do get there, there's some of this cool furniture I'd like to get. I do want to deck out my home with a lot of this cool stuff, but the winner was like more of a gypsy theme type of home. What is kind of disappointing is that we don't get to see the inside of the house, or at least I don't know where to find it. If somebody knows where to find that, please let me know in like the comments below in the YouTube channel, or send me a message somehow, because I would love to see the inside of these homes for Disdainful and for Gnarly Reed. I'd like to see the rest of it. We only got like a glimpse of one room here on Twitter, and then the last one, the Urte, something like that. I don't know, I'm butchering your name, but it looks really dope. It's like a really cool library scene that looks awesome. And they look really, really good. But the one that I thought should have won, Danny, this is my qualm, dude. The Pixel Cave Gaming, you said it earlier. Now, the other one's fairly, like, I can't see inside. I can't see the full house, right? Like, we don't get a full tour. So maybe inside of Disdainful's home is just amazingly decorated home. I don't know, but I was blown away by Pixel Cave Gaming's tavern. It was incredible. The level of detail in there was absolutely insane. If you guys haven't seen it, go to New World's Twitter. There's a link to Pixel Cave Gaming, and they have a YouTube video posted of that tour. I highly recommend going to look at it. It's really, really cool. And I was blown away, man. I didn't know that people could decorate like that in New World. I've seen it in other games like, ESO and some other games, but I just haven't toured enough homes in New World to realize like the level of dedication some of these people have to their home decoration. If Red was here, which he is here in the background, he just can't talk. His house looks pretty freaking dope, man. He's done a great job decorating his, but that tavern, bro, I'm telling you, Danny, it looks incredible, man.
It's awesome. Yeah, absolutely awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, that about does it for the news of the week. That's about all we had for news. There hasn't been a lot going on since the last episode when we talked about the announcement of the PTR, but we have had a chance to be on the PTR. So now we're going to roll into the main topic of the week and discuss the PTR just a little bit more. So now I'm assuming the awkward drop is over again, Danny, because again, I can't see them. I hope Red is doing them right, because I have no idea. So the first thing that, like, we're not going to cover every single thing in the patch notes, because if we did, we'd be here for the next 4 hours. So we're going to cover some of the hot spots and talk about those, some of the things that interests us and some of the things that we think are going to make a big change in the game moving forward. So one of those things that really was kind of hidden in the patch notes that I don't know if a lot of people have seen yet, Danny, and that is the new fort bonuses, man. So how about you take it away right here? I know you posted earlier all the new fort bonuses for us to take a look at. So how about you take it away and talk about those just for a second?
Yeah. I guess we won't go through all of them, but a couple of my favorites, actually. One is +5 crafting bonus that we're going to get from Morningdale. I'm assuming that means we've discussed a lot about this. We need more information really from them before we kind of jump to conclusions, but we're assuming, you could skip the weaponsmith pants, for example, and you could still craft the weapons. We don't think we can go above 600, and we don't think that you're going to be guaranteed 600. Well, I don't, but we're not exactly sure. So I think that's going to be a great one. We have Brightwood's kind of a random one. Is resourceless camping. Saving on some wood and some flint. Thanks, guys. And then there's some more that are bringing in kind of the PvP element with this PDR patch with the arena. So as of Salt PvP experience. One that I've kind of invested in, I guess, is First Light. So it's a 10% global refining yield. So I've gone out and bought probably about 500K's worth of raw materials to refine up in the hope that this extra resource, the refining yield, is going to yield me some money. But yeah, there's every fort has been reworked, so hopefully that will drive some open world PvP as well as just something new, really.
Yeah, for sure. You guys are gonna have to go take First Light fort before you start refining all that material, Danny. Don't forget to go take the fort, dude. Yes. Don't go immediately into live and refine all your material only to realize you didn't take the fort. Yeah. So these are some pretty cool little adjustments to the game. I think after a couple patches ago, there wasn't much use for any of the fast travel ones anymore, like the one that was in First Light. I think a couple of the other ones, goodness, I can't talk, were just completely removed from the game. So they didn't have a bonus at all for like the past, I don't know, month or so. So it's nice to see them come back in and add these and readjust these. And I was expecting them to just come in and fix the ones that were missing, but they basically readjusted every single territory or every single fort bonus. And the one that you mentioned, Morningdale, the 5% or the +5 crafting bonus, is definitely a very interesting one. And Red, in his very grizzly man voice, we were talking about it earlier, and he was asking, like, can you just get 600 guaranteed crafts now if you have all of your 595 to 600 bonus crafting gear on, and then you own the Morningdale fort? Does that guarantee you to get 600 crafting? Because in my mind, I was like, oh crap, I didn't think about that. That makes a lot of sense, because you get an additional +5 crafting bonus. But then you said that you had some guys test on the PTR, and that doesn't seem to be the case right now, right?
Correct. Yeah, it seems to still sit within that 595 to 600, but I'm hoping I'm wrong, because even with that, there's still the RNG element of the perks rolling. So it would be nice if we can kind of guarantee a legendary, but at the same time, I don't know if they would want that. So I don't know. It'd be really nice to get some more information on this. It'd be good to see. One thing I did miss actually was Monarch's Bluff is plus 5% experience, which includes your trade skills.
Yeah.
Login efficient. I know it's a small one, but all of us have, I'll talk for myself. I have not really enjoyed leveling up the fishing or the login. I'm still not 200 on login. So this is great for me.
It's not great for me. It tilts me a little bit because I finished leveling up everything. I'm done with all of it. And now they come out with this to help you boost your experience, but that's okay. Good on you guys that haven't done it yet. Yeah, these are some pretty interesting buffs. The Morningdale one is probably the most intriguing one to me out of all of them, a +5 crafting bonus. We'll have to wait and see, I guess, how that's actually going to play out on live. But maybe it is a situation where if you're missing like maybe one of those really hard to get pieces of gear, like one of the weaponsmithing pieces of gear that's crazy expensive and hard to farm out, maybe you don't have to have it if you own Morningdale, and then you can just go in there and craft. I don't know how that's going to play out yet, but that is a very interesting bonus, one that I did not see coming. And then all the other ones are pretty straightforward. You know, you have a +10% consumable bonus in Lynn's Word, Gathering Luck boost in Cutlass Keys, the refining yield, like Danny said, in First Light. The experience boost one is an interesting one too in Monarch's Bluff. PvP experience boost in Reekwater, which is going to be a nice one because you're going to want to boost up that PvP reward track, which we'll talk about here in a minute. The Azal Salt bonus ties into that. And then the 5% faction store discount one for Ebonscale, I feel like is a little bit underwhelming. You know, I wish they would bump that up to more like 15% because now you get so many faction tokens. It's like, I guess it doesn't matter too much, but whenever you buy like a tuning orb and it's 10K faction tokens or whatever, it'd be nice to have like a 1,500 discount versus like a 500. It's like, come on, man.
It's kind of like it doesn't matter.
It'd be nice. Yeah.
It's like if I don't have the thought of who cares, you know, it doesn't matter. So.
Right. Very kind of menial. But I do like the 10% global tax reduction for Weaver's Fin. That's a nice one. Then you have Restless Shore, the 100% free fast travel, which is like, that's kind of menial now too because it's only 20 days off, but it is nice. 100% free fast travel is good. But I think the ones people are going to be fighting over the most now is probably going to be Morningdale, man. Morningdale seems to be probably one of the most lucrative ones in there, in my opinion, if not the most lucrative one that people are going to want to get. So very interesting, man. Some very interesting stuff there. You have anything more on that topic before we move on, Danny?
No, I mean, if it does bring us the legendaries, that would be quite nice. There was a gent on EU that spent around 3 million gold the last couple of days. He did a big stream, 3 million gold it was with donations and stuff, all on great axes, and got like one good great axe out of the 3 million. It was like, oh man, I would feel bad for a long time. So it would be nice to allow us a bit more control over crafting, but let's wait and see what happens. I guess it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to have those kind of options. It's kind of interesting because I don't know if you've seen the thing with the, I think it was just a non-intended thing, but the Tempest mutation craft or the gear, the replicas that you could craft, you could guarantee a 600 from those. And that was a pretty cool thing, I thought. And then they said that was just not intended, so they took it out, and that was kind of unfortunate. But I would personally like to see more of that. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that come into the game. Yeah, for sure. That's something we've talked about, I think, ad nauseum on the podcast. But the next thing we have right here is the crafting mod changes at the kiln, Danny. Now, this is something that I haven't seen in the patch notes. Have you seen this in the patch notes?
I have not.
I haven't either. So for those of you that are listening that don't know what these are, on the PTR, you can now change your split stat crafting mods into a single stat crafting mod with 5 split stat mods and 20 Azoth. So what you do is you walk up to a kiln, you have 5 split stat mods. So if you're trying to get like a con mod, Guardsman Insignia, you have to have another split stat mod with con on there. So any split stat mod that has con on there, you can use 5 of those with 20 Azoth and change it into one of these single stat mods. You can do that for all of the stat attributes. I think personally that is a fantastic change. It's going to really impact the market a ton for a lot of these mods, but in my opinion, I think it's excellent because having 10 mods to craft an item is insane, dude. It's an insane cost. It's crazy. It's unneeded. And I wish you only had to have one, but unfortunately you have to have a whole bunch of these things. So what do you think about this change, Dan? You think this is good for the game or you think this will make it to live even?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? All the things we talk about in the PTR may not actually deliver. But yeah, I think for me, it's a good change. One, I've made a load of money on my Iron Guardsman. That was thank you very much.
Yeah, I sold mine for like 30K.
Yeah, I can see people in chat now like trying to panic sell them. I'm like, unlucky boys. But no, I think it's a good change because I remember at the start of the game I was just throwing Iron Guardsman just I didn't want them in my inventory as a waste of space. But now, like, everyone's kind of getting end game. The prices of these things, prices of materials, prices of mods are going up. So I think they're just finding a way to kind of like tip the balance back and, make crafting a bit more easier. If they're not guaranteeing us that 600 gear score, then, make it more affordable. And I think this is one of those ways, because they've become extremely expensive. So this is a good change, I think, for everybody who wants to craft. And let's, I know people are going to be annoyed if they haven't sold them yet, or they've got stacks that they've not sold yet. But I think long term, it's a better change, easier crafting. So
yeah, I would agree for sure. One of the points Red makes all the time is he talks about, if we didn't have a way to guarantee like even another perk or gear score 600 stuff, just make crafting a whole lot cheaper so that we can have a lot more opportunity to roll gear, which makes sense to me. And I think this is a step in that direction for sure. So I personally really like the change, and I hope this is one that does make it to live. It's just interesting it wasn't in the patch notes, so we'll have to wait and see what comes of that. But that is on the PTR, so get ready. Don't say we didn't warn you. All right, it's coming. So the next big thing we have, Danneh. I was reading Dynasty and said Danneh instead of Danneh. Sorry about that. We have the depths, not even Dynasty. It's the depths mutation. I was just all over the place right there. The depths mutation, man. So I have not had a chance to run this on the PTR yet. I'm pretty excited to see something like this come into the game. I think a lot of people were waiting for like some of these older mutations to or some of these older expeditions to be mutated versions. And so here we have our first old dungeon making its way into the mutation rotation. So I haven't run it yet, Danneh. I know you have had a chance to run it. So what were your thoughts? And also, we're getting 3 new mutation types. So which type did you run? Because I would imagine it was something other than Fire and Void, right?
Yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. So basically, the greatest thing about this mutation was going back into an expedition that you haven't done before. We're running the same things over and over again, and it's kind of like getting, it is what it is. The content that's in the game is the content in this game, whatever. So we're doing the same thing a lot of the time. So this was kind of nice to be not forced back, but encouraged to go back. So we went on PTR, we checked it out. It was a bit of a faff because they don't allow you to choose M1 to M10. You have to do the original one first, and then you can go through the mutations. So it's kind of frustrating. It would have been nice to do M10, but nah, I didn't want to do one tonight on the PTR. So we did M1. So realistically, we didn't see too much, but it was nice to be in there. And honestly, the only real difference I felt was there was different colors. With the circles on the floor, there was different colors. So I think later down the line, it's going to get, you're going to have to think about what you're doing and whatnot. But my initial thoughts were, I'm back in the depths, happy days, getting my butt kicked by Thorpe again, which was pretty cool, to be fair. He is a tough boss, so you have to think about it. But it's nice to see. I can see here we've got overgrown, barbaric, and fiendish. Yeah. And I was kind of reading the descriptions behind, and maybe you want to go over them, but it didn't feel challenging, which I know M1 on depth, which isn't exactly a tough dungeon when we're running 600 gear score, didn't feel challenging. So we'll see how we go as we raise up the mutations. But it was nice to be back in the depths. Well, that's all I can really say. Yeah, I can imagine like the mutated versions of those dungeons. Really, what I hope would happen with the mutated expedition is like a new boss or new mechanics from that boss instead of these just the mutators. But unfortunately, I don't think that's what we're getting. We're getting just these new mutators, which are fine. I think they'll be good, and hopefully once you get into the later levels or the later mutations of the depths, it'll be a little bit more challenging, a little bit more fun. And we'll just have to see how overgrown, barbaric, and fiendish plays out. So for those that may not know or haven't read the patch notes yet, the new mutators right now, we have Void and Fire. We're going to now have Overgrown, which focuses on nature, damage, and resistance. Overgrown adds effects like Toxic, a pull which tracks down a player, and Compost, which turns trash into healing areas for their allies, which I feel like that's a pretty interesting mechanic, I think, which could prove to be kind of annoying or kind of difficult in the later level mutations. Then we have Barbaric that focuses on physical damage. So this is our first
physical damage one. All the other ones up to this point have been like magic damage. So this is interesting. So it adds Berserk and Enrage effect and Shattering, which deals stamina damage. So I think that might be kind of an interesting one. And then we have Fiendish. It curses focus on the Nocturnal. Fiendish adds Weary, which will weaken players with the Rend and make them vulnerable with the Slow, and Blood Offering, which stacks damage over time. So that one sounds like that may be almost the hardest one, because whenever you're weakening players with the Rend and then making them vulnerable with the Slow, I think there's going to be a lot more deaths potentially in there, especially with some of the stamina changes we're going to talk about here in a second. I think that could play into some of these mutators being a little bit more difficult. But that's interesting, man. I'm going to have to run it. I think we're going to try to get a group together at some point and run it on the PTR, but we haven't had the pleasure to do that yet. So I'm glad you were able to, and glad to speak on it. But it will be interesting to see like if they eventually mutate like Starstone and maybe Amarine along with this one. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But happy days. At least we're getting the depths. More variety to the mutation rotation is always welcome, I think. So anything else on the mutator, Danneh? Any other final thoughts there?
No, you just kind of touched on Starstone briefly, and you mentioned before about bringing in some new mechanics. If they're going to do it on any expedition, I'd love to see on Starstone that laser room. They just fill it full of lasers and make it like this mega puzzle, and just I would love to see that come to the game. Whether we will or not, who knows? But yeah, let's see Amarine, let's see Starstone at some point. But this is cool. You know, it's just more content for people to kind of get their teeth into. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. So the next thing we have for the PTR update, or the next little piece of topic we wanted to talk about here, and we talked about just a second, are some of the combat changes. So there's a lot of these coming into the game. The combat has changed quite significantly on the PTR. But there's a lot of changes coming in. Some good, some maybe not so good. But I'm going to hone in on a couple of these changes I think are going to be really big. And the first one is this changes to stamina and the way stamina works. So what's going to happen is that they're updating the equip load bonuses to bring heavy armor healers in line with other builds. We'll talk about that in a second. And they're adding a small delay to stamina regen after a dodge. And they're making some big sweeping changes to bow movement and firing options, which the bow does feel a lot better on the PTR. Have you had a chance to play with the bow, Danneh? Do you mess with the bow at all?
I play against the bow quite a lot.
Against the bow?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good fun. Yeah, I raise my shield in front of them, and they get very annoyed. But everyone who I spoke to said it's a really nice change, and they're enjoying the bow at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I played it a little bit, and it did feel a lot better from what it felt like on live. I'm not a huge bow player on live, but I have used it some, and it feels pretty good. But the thing I wanted to hone in on here is the delay they're adding to the dodge, right? So they're adding a 1 second delay to stamina regen after dodge. This delay matches the functionality of the stamina regen delay that triggers after releasing a block. This is actually a really, really big change. On the PTR, you can definitely feel it. So now whenever you dodge, it takes 1 second before your stamina to start regenning again, which may not seem like a lot, but I promise you, if you're a light armor user, you're dodging around all the time, this is a significant change, and you can definitely feel it on the PTR. So what are your thoughts about this delay for the stamina regen after your dodge?
Yeah, I think this kind of aimed at the meta feels right now. You see a lot of people running light, the blunderbuss one shots, there's a lot of light players. If you go into OPI, everyone's just rolling around, man. Everyone's roly-polying all around. And that's fine. It is what it is. For me, I haven't played too much light, so I can't comment too much on it, but I will feel the effect from running a shield. I've tried to move out of the heavy plays and move out of the tank kind of builds, but whenever I'm in the open world or whenever I'm in OPR, I just I get focused so hard. So I've gone back to my kind of tanky ways, and it's the same for the tank. So when we're blocking, we block with our stam. So I felt it on Thorpe actually. He hits hard, and you have to be dead on perfect with the timing to release the block to allow the stam regen. And even with me trying to do it as good as I can, I was still getting shield broke. Excuse me. So from a tanky point of view, I think the change is going to be interesting, but also from a chase point of view, like I'm always finding myself kind of chasing light players in OPR. But for me as a chaser, I think it's going to be good. However, from a light point of view, it's going to be really frustrating, because that 1 second doesn't sound like much, but actually in reality, that's going to be a huge change to everything that we've been playing with for the last couple of months. It's a huge shift in what people will be doing while they're in combat. So yeah. I'm talking specific mainly from like a PvP standpoint. From a PvE standpoint, I don't know how much it will affect too much, but I feel, you know, mainly PvE will be from maybe from a shields perspective, because if your tank gets his shield broken, he just gets, you know, taken down on Scylla, for example, or something. It could be detrimental to the whole group. But from a PvP standpoint, it's going to be a big change, like a real big change.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a big change on both ends, because I'm just sitting here as you're talking and you mentioned PvE. I haven't really thought about that side very much other than the tanking side that you just mentioned. But whenever you're in light armor and you're trying to DPS in a mutation, some of those like M10s in there, whenever you get stuck in the fire and maybe you can't dodge roll out, or you maybe made a mistake and exhausted your stamina and now your stamina regen's a second lower, that could mean death. That could mean a quick death, and it could cost you the gold if you're not careful. So I think that change alone is going to have a huge impact across the meta in both PvE and PvP. I think for sure it's actually a really, really big change. The other changes coming in for dodging, and I feel like they're making all these changes because right now the meta is very much a light armor heavy meta in PvP specifically, and people just running around, you know, getting away, running around, being very slippery. And with the introduction of arenas, which we're going to talk about in a second, I think a lot of these changes are made because of that, because they're introducing arenas and they're trying to figure out some of the problems that could be happening with arenas. And I think they're trying to be maybe a little bit proactive with some of these. But dodging now is allowed while rooted. So the player will not move while rooted, but they will have invulnerability frame. So I found this one to be pretty interesting too here, Danny, because they have done some other things to CC here in the patch notes as well, and I didn't have in our notes, but they are having like diminishing returns for CC now. I don't know where that is in the patch notes, but I remember reading through it before. So all of these changes are crazy, but let's go back to dodging for a second. What do you think about being able to dodge while you're rooted? So now if you're rooted, you can now iframe out of other abilities. What do you think about that?
I just have this vision of when we were playing the arena, Cypher I was playing with, he ice showered someone, and this guy was just like rolling around in this ice shower. It's absolutely hilarious. But I think I don't know, I'm not anti the change. I think it kind of Gravwell's a little bit now. It kind of feels like you can get out pretty much no problem at all. I'm not anti it. I haven't played it enough yet for it to annoy me. Should we say?
Yeah.
It's okay. I was just gonna say, I don't know if we can pause with your camera. Your camera was a bit.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Are we back? Are we good?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. I thought it was me.
No, it's something with this this software. It happened last time we had the podcast with Brian as well. But so I didn't hear a little bit of what you said other than the last part. But the so for me, this dodging and not allowed while rooted, I play a lot of hatchet, right? So this right here is inherently a nerf to the hatchet. Because the hatchet, for PvP specifically, because one of the abilities you use for the hatchet is called feral rush. So whenever you feral rush and you hit a player in the back, it roots them in place. So one of the combos you do is you feral rush and then you go into a raging torrent and you beat that person up basically. Feral rush is very hard to hit. You have to land it exactly right. People can dodge out of it if you're not within a very close distance. It locks you into a straight distance path. It's a very difficult ability to land, and now you're not rewarded anymore if you land it, because now people can just iframe right out of your feral rush route. And so for me as a hatchet boy, I'm a little bit tilted at this change, but I also am happy with it too because of the last part of this we're going to read here in a minute too. So Ice Shower, Ice Storm, and Gravwell no longer disable dodging, which I'm not sure about the Gravwell one, but the Ice Shower and Ice Storm, I couldn't be happier about this change. I don't know about you, but Ice Shower has been a problem for a while, and now we're going to be able to at least dodge out of Ice Shower. But being slowed is going to affect the movement of your dodge. So if you're slowed and you dodge, you're going to move less distance based on the power of the slow, which I think is pretty interesting too. So it didn't make Ice Shower and Ice Storm like completely bunk, because your dodge is slower, so it is still a CC, but you can at least dodge out of it. That is an enormous change for sure for those abilities. So what do you think about that, man? Have you been plagued as much as we have, or as much as I have, I guess? I'm a light armor melee boy. Ice Shower is probably the one thing in the game that just plagues my gameplay in PvP. So what are your thoughts there, man?
Yeah, no, I've found a way to live with it. I got a lot of ice gems on my gear now, and when someone ice showers me, I'm just like, get it. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And it doesn't touch me. So for me, it's not a problem. But it absolutely destroys. You know, it's one of the biggest abilities that tilts everyone. Do you think if you manage to hit someone, was it Feral Rush, and that locks them in? If you hit someone, do you think would that slow them if they manage to kind of move out of that, so you could still chase them and give them a hatchet to the back of the head while they're running away?
You could still chase, but the problem is the root. Whenever they're in the root, I don't think they're going to be able to dodge out of the root. They can just iframe your next ability. Okay. So then you just basically waste your next ability, and the root doesn't last an incredibly long time either. So just having the ability to dodge while you're rooted is just, that's the only CC the hatchet has. So inherently, it's like just this really big nerf to the hatchet. And I wasn't very happy whenever I read that. I was happy about the other parts, but just me being a hatchet boy, I read through that and I was like, oh man, this is not going to be good for my particular build. So I'm gonna have to learn and adapt. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to use it too much in arenas, unfortunately. But we'll wait and see. I don't know.
Let's just hope that New World doesn't class Feral Rush as a root. It's something else. It's stuck in the mud, so you'll be fine.
Yeah. That'd be nice if there was an exception there for sure. So one of the things that we talked about here too, and you'll probably be able to speak on this one a lot more because I know you're a tanky boy. You use a lot of CC in your kit, I think. So I find this is huge. So increase the diminishing returns on subsequent applications of stuns and roots. So the duration reduced per application increased from 20% to 50% per application, which I found this to be incredibly interesting because I didn't know there were diminishing returns in the game already. And reading this, it sounds like there was. It says that duration reduction per application is increasing from 20% to 50% per application. So in my mind, that means there was already diminishing returns. They're just making them better, right? Am I reading that right, or am I reading that wrong?
I think that makes sense. Increase diminishing. I mean, if it wasn't there, they would have said we've introduced, right, rather than increased. So it makes sense that they're increasing it, but I've never really felt it.
I haven't either, because 20% was so low that now they increased it to 50%. So it'll be this is an enormous change to me. This is something that people have been screaming about for a long time. This might affect you a little bit, Danneh, with your because don't you run a lot of CC heavy builds? You run hammer and sword and board sometimes and all the tanky boy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like it could potentially work both ways. I mean, I run invigorated across all my gear, so I don't I kind of break free of a lot of stuff relatively quickly and just dance around my sacred ground when the boys are kind of carrying me essentially. But I feel this could be really interesting. It feels like they want the combat to be a lot more motion in the combat rather than kind of these stuns, these CCs. Everyone gets these one shot combos. I think it feels like they're wanting the combat to be in motion all the time. So it's going to be interesting. I use a hammer. I use the CCs all the time. My sword, my sword and shield, my hammer, even the blunderbuss now when I'm knocking people over is incredibly fun. And they just lay there while you can shoot them a few times. It's brilliant. So I don't know how this is going to affect. I haven't had a chance to probably test it yet. Hopefully it's not too much of a change, but enough that makes it kind of a bit more fair and a bit more fluid. But yeah, let's wait and see, I guess. What do you think?
Well, I think this is an interesting change coupled with the changes for dodge rolling and dodging, because what happens ultimately like now is that you almost have to have a lot of CC in your kit to be able to kill someone one-on-one, because if you don't, the light armor boys just roll right away, right? So if they introduced this level of diminishing returns before, then it would have been really hard to lock someone down, I think, and then kill them, or it could be hard. With my particular build, I can oftentimes roll away after getting CC'd by someone, kind of a CC combo. But if two people jumped on me and CC'd me and they chained them together, I'd be dead, right? Well, with this CC reduction, maybe that wouldn't be the case. Maybe I'd still be able to get away and roll away, and then that would increase like this toxicity of this light armor just like constantly running away meta. So I find this to be like a good time for them to introduce this like diminishing returns, because now with the dodge changes coupled with this, I feel like maybe it'll mesh together a little bit better, because you're not going to be able to get away as much now with the changes to dodge with the 1 second delay. You're not going to be able to run as much. So now if there's diminishing returns on your CC, you have an opportunity to kind of get away a little bit easier, if that makes sense at all. In my mind, it all works together, right? I don't know if it's coming out correctly or not, but that's how I see it. I just, these are very interesting changes, man, that I think is going to shake up the meta quite a lot. And it's going to be interesting to see like how the meta shakes up for arenas specifically whenever we get into that realm. So anyway, that's about it for, one more thing I want to talk about the dodge changes is that someone in our company said, and this is not in, or at least I haven't seen it in the patch notes, so I haven't confirmed this, right? I don't know this for sure. It came from a very reliable source, though, somebody in the company that plays in the PTR a lot. It was Parfax. Actually, we'll just go ahead and give him a shout out. He was saying that your dodge roll now for your light armor doesn't go further than any of your other dodge rolls do either. So they kind of nerfed the distance in which it goes. And I haven't seen that in patch notes. I have not tested that personally myself. But if that's the case, that's another very, very big nerf to the light armor dodge roll. So now I feel like if that is the case, that coupled with all the other things, I feel like we're going to start seeing a lot more of the heavy bruiser builds potentially, even in arenas and other plays. So we'll see what happens. I just found that to be very interesting too, which right now it is kind of toxic not being able to catch people, man, especially probably for your type of build, Danny. I just sat in the middle of the arena.
I just sat in the middle running around and like wait for the fire to come. It's like, come on.
Yeah, you can't really do much unless you have some sort of mobility. Yeah. What do you think if they change that though? Like the distance, because before I know you and Red did a video a while back about the distances between the dodges, and it was a very interesting video seeing like how much further you actually went. So now with that change, man, that would be a huge nerf to the light roll. Do you think people will still use the light armor just for the damage increase? And then we haven't even talked about the healing changes yet, which is going to maybe almost force healers into light armor. So it's going to be definitely, these are some huge changes, man. So what do you think if that is the case, man? What do you think about that? About them nerfing kind of the distance of the light armor dodge roll?
It's something I've never thought about before, and I've not checked it myself either. It is the first time I'm hearing of it, and if that's true, from my personal standpoint, I'm all for it. Like, it is the worst thing all I can do in OPR currently and in arenas is stand in the middle and hope someone comes to me and play the objective. So for me, it's going to be a really great change, and I've kind of said it from day one. You know, I'm happy with the life staff, I'm happy with the fire staff, but I'm also happy they get rid of Void Gauntlet, Ice Gauntlet, and we get back to those kind of, you know, hand-to-hand combat, sword, shield, spear, hatchet. You know, I love that kind of Mordau type combat. So more of that, forcing the fights rather than allowing the running, or, you know, for me is what it's all about. And if someone is going to be playing light, it's because they're top tier when it comes to the damage and they understand. You know, I feel like at the moment I managed to run light, and I've never played light before, and I can play it because I just dodge, and it doesn't. You know, I'm not. There's not really like a skill gap there. I feel like if people are going to be playing light to get that big damage boost, you know, you're going to start to see the difference in skill level when it comes down to the 3v3 arenas and those 1v1s and stuff. So I think it's going to be a fascinating change if that's true. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, I kind of like the direction it's going. I want more forcing of fights. I've kind of said it from the start. Make people fight for the PvP missions. Make people fight, and bring in the PvP. You know, in a balanced way. So if this is going to balance it out, and this is the way they see it happening, let's try it. Let's see what happens. And I don't know how it could happen. How to get that mix of light, medium, and heavy. Because at the moment it was very heavy at the start of the game. Lots of heavies, not too many mediums. Then it was kind of a bit of heavy, a bit of a medium, and then it was just loads of light. And now this might hopefully force people to make the choice between whether they want to be super heavy or big damage and risk getting caught and killed. It's fascinating, man. I hope it plays out, and I hope it works out, because it'll be bloody awesome.
Yeah, it would be for sure. There's always been this very interesting dynamic in New World where you have this problem with the different equipment loads and how to balance those and how to balance the dodge roll and make it feel good for all of these different types of equipment loads. And I feel like now they may be onto something. They may be onto the right track to make all these things a little bit more rewarding, because if you're in light, you should do a lot more damage. And like you're saying, you should be punished if you get caught out. That's the whole thing. If you're in light, you're just a high damage dealer. And right now there's a lot of get out of jail free cards, man. You can just roll your stamina regen so fast, especially if you have hardy or the 150 dex bonus. You can just dodge roll forever. And that coupled with like something like the rapier or whatever, you have these musket boys with the rapier and light armor. You literally can never catch them. You have healers with light armor and the rapier on the back bar. You literally can never catch them. It's a very weird thing, and it's going to be a tough thing to balance. But this is a good attempt at it, I think, and it is going to shake up the meta quite a lot, I believe. So speaking of all of that, let's move on a little bit here and let's talk about the changes to healing, because this is also like a massive change to the game. So, and I have my theories of why maybe they did this, but it says they updated the equip load healing bonus to be multiplicative. Now, all of the healing bonuses from equip load positive or negative will be added on after all other calculations have been made, meaning it will have a larger and more consistent impact on healing, which is huge because of this next part. So it says, example, base healing is 100 and a player has 2 passives, each increasing healing by 10%. Those 2 healing mods are additive. So those are calculated as 100 times 1.1 plus 0.1, which equals to 120. With equip load now being multiplicative, it is now calculated after all other math has been completed. So now it would be something like 100 times 1 plus 0.01, so it'd be 110. It'd be 121 total. So just at the end of the day, sorry, I shouldn't have read all that. Basically, it means healing is going to be either more powerful or less powerful based on the type of gear you have on, because it's multiplicative instead of additive. So now it says they removed the medium equip load healing bonus and increased the reduction to healing in heavy equip load. This is where it gets crazy, Danny. Healing bonuses per equip load are now light, you get a plus 30% healing bonus. Medium, you get 0%. And in heavy, it is a negative 30%. So Red heals a little bit. He's not here to talk on this, so we don't have a healer in the group to really give a solid opinion. But this is actually crazy. And here's the crazy part, man, is that right now you don't see a lot of heavy armor healers. Right now, most healers that you see in the game are already running around in light armor. So it's not really like it's not really like they did this because there's this big crazy meta going on the armor healers. But I did this more so because of the arenas, because now, like Danny, I was fighting an OPR the other day, and heavy armor healers are still a thing. There was 6 of us on one guy, and we still were struggling to take him down because literally all he did was stand in his sacred ground over and over and over. We couldn't kill the guy. He was heavy armor. He just sat there. He just took it like a man. He was useless otherwise, because whenever he started healing his team, he couldn't move. He couldn't do anything. We just killed him. But just the sacred grounds on himself in a small arena, just healing himself over and over and over, and he was just using all of his healing on himself. I could see that being a problem in a small scale arena like the 3v3 arenas that are coming in. So I feel like that's literally the only reason they're adding this in is for the arenas. So this is a huge change, man. It almost forces healers into light armor, and it's going to change up the meta quite a lot. There was also some other nerfs to like single target healing and some other things that happened. It's crazy, man. What do you think about this change? And do you like it? Do you not like it? How do you think this is going to shake things up?
Yes, this is like huge. I think the mushroom behind you is taking all your bandwidth. By the way, I can hear you, but your camera keeps freezing. But I can hear you, man. I can hear you.
Could you hear me? Could you hear me? Okay, it should be fixed now. Jeez Louise, this Google Meet stuff, man. We might just do something different.
Yeah, no, I rely heavily on healers. My entire build is built for a 3-4 man team, so. Same with the guys I play regularly. And our healer, Sheng, who, we recently, we didn't fold our company. We still play together, but we joined another company to get into some more wars and just to, chill out a little bit. And there was actually a big discussion because every single healer in this company plays Lifestaff Rapier. And we're like, we don't do that. We play medium or we play heavy. And if our healer gets hit, we call it and we work with him, because what you just said, he can actually survive normally a lot longer, with a hammer or a great axe than he can running away in a rapier in light, because it is still pretty powerful when you're playing heavy, and especially if you've got a team to back you up. So I personally don't like the change because it's sticking a thorn in our current setup and our current build for open world. We do a lot of 5v20 type stuff. We really try to do that, and I love it a bit. So I think this is kind of tough for what we enjoy doing. But I think, like you've mentioned, for arenas, if someone is a beast in their heavy and they're playing life staff, they become a tank with a life staff, and that's maybe not the way New World envisioned their PvP playing out. So it's a difficult one for me. All the addition, the multiplicative is too much for my brain. I'm just waiting for it to work. I had to check it out, to be honest. I don't really get it. Sheng's been doing a lot of testing, and he basically said, if you go light, you get an extra 1,000 plus, healing for what you would get if you were medium. So it's definitely powerful, and it's definitely important that if you want to play healer seriously, you need to be in light gear now, and they've made that pretty clear. So it's a huge change. It's a huge change. I have no idea how it's going to play out across the live servers and whatnot, but it's huge.
It is huge. I think they've been pushing in this direction for quite a while anyway, whenever they introduced the healing bonuses back several patches ago anyhow for the different equip weights or equip loads. But it brings up a very, in my mind, it brings up this very intriguing question, because it does seem like they are making this change for arena specifically, or that seems like on paper, right? And I can understand that, but it's this very interesting situation where how is all this stuff going to actually play together with open world PvP, with wars, with arenas, with OPR? How in the world do you balance all of those things to make them still feel really good and still feel really fair in all of these different scenarios? Because 3v3 arenas are so much different than wars, for example. So much different than OPR. Your build is so much different. The meta is so much different. How do you make it so that there's not the same 3 builds in these arenas all the time, or the same meta all the time in all these other places like that? I think that's just an age-old question that all MMOs and all games have struggled with. But it's going to be a really fun and interesting journey to see how this is handled now that arenas are implemented, and how this is going to work out over the course of the next few months, to see if they can actually balance all these game modes into a very fun environment for every game mode. Because I can see this being a situation where maybe 3v3 arenas are in a good spot, but they changed so much stuff to make those in a good spot that now wars are a little bit different, and they're not quite as fun because there's some things jacked up there that aren't as good. So we'll see, man. I don't know, dude. It's going to be an interesting next few months. What do you think?
Yeah. I while you're chatting now, I think both of us are we got the PvP mindset, and I had someone in Twitch chat the other day, and he was popping off, man. He was like, tell AGS that they need to make things better for PvE. No,
nobody in Twitch chat does that, do they? Nobody ever does that.
He was popping off, man. I was like, bro, I'm sorry, dude. Because everything, when someone asks me a question, I just instantly respond with a PvP mindset.
I do too.
For me, a lot of the game is the wars and stuff. So but he's absolutely right, and what you're saying too, from 3v3 to wars, and then into LAS or into the depths, trying to make what weapon works well in the wars versus in a 5-man Hamreen run is a huge task. So
it is. So that brings up another kind of really, really interesting conversation. We'll segue this into arenas. But one of the things you get from arenas is a PvP specific perk on your gear. Is one of the things that's been introduced now. I don't know if you've seen those yet. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
So they say on the perk. Yeah, they say on the perk, PvP only, and then it describes the perk. So it's only used in PvP. I was having this conversation on stream the other day, and I don't know how you feel about them, Danny, but I'm very mixed whenever it comes to these. I know and fully understand we already have basically PvE and PvP perks in the game. You have Corrupted Ward, you have Corrupted Bane, you have Resilient, you have things that work in one that don't work in the other. But their ultimate goal for this game, which is why I've always never been a huge fan of all of these different gear sets and all the things they have going on in the game, and just this constant push to get this different types of gear for everything, because their goal has always been to make PvP and PvE not only coexist but complement one another. That's what they've said. That's kind of their tagline. They've said that for since the beginning of time, dude. We want PvP and PvE to not only exist, to coexist, but we want them to complement each other. Danny, how in the world do you have them complement each other whenever you have PvP specific and PvE specific gear? You're, in my mind, you're spreading them further and further apart, right? Like you're implementing this PvP specific gear that actually says it in the perk. It's not like Corrupted Bane or something that you get that and you can at least wear it while you're out like open world PvPing, right? It still at least has a use, because if you're out in like Shattered Mountain open world PvPing and you have Corrupted Ward on your gear, you're at least like PvPvEing in the open world, so you can take a little bit more damage from those mobs like up in Shattered Mountain while you're fighting other people. Like they at least have a purpose, right? Yep. This PvP specific gear is literally useless unless you have it on whenever you're PvPing. I personally don't like it, and I hope that's something that they scratch and don't make it to live. I understand it's kind of already in the game, but I already made my point there. Like, what do you think about that, dude? I don't see how these two coexist and complement one another whenever you're pushing them so far away from one another. It just doesn't make sense. And maybe that's not their vision anymore, but
yeah. I got a couple of points. One is for the longest time now, I've been running Void Bent for my PvP gear. And now a lot of people come into stream and they kick my butt again. And I'm like, bro, what are you running? And I'm like, fight me. And I'll fight them. and a lot of the time I do pretty good. Because for me, it's got Resilient and it's got Invigorated. So as a tank, it does what it says on the tin for me, so it's really good. But I've ran
lots of M10s with Void Bent on, man. Successfully, just fine. Yeah,
they're doing okay. But the only the positive I see potentially come from this is that, you know, for the longest time we've wanted sets or organization of inventory or something like that. So if they're bringing out something that is a PvP focused set that you're going to be running in arenas, that surely on the horizons, a close horizon, is inventory management. Because for me, you're absolutely right. I think they don't really belong in the game. But if it's going to be in the game, they have to allow us, please, to have some inventory management, not this mess of an inventory. Because trying to, you know, you have to mouse over, you have to look for the perk, you have to mouse, because all the gear mostly looks the same anyway, because, you know, whatever. But that would be something that would hopefully come off the back of this, you know, perk change. So I'm trying to see the positive in this. some of the perks are pretty cool for me as a player, you know, but I am probably same for you too as PvP focused players. But you know, realistically now we're going to have a 65 set for PvP, 65 set for PvE, which you'd probably want anyway. But actually, it's a lot of time and effort, especially if someone doesn't play the game as much as us.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If this brings in inventory management, then I'm okay with it. If they don't bring in inventory management for the longest time, but they bring this in, I think it's going to be a negative more than a positive for the longest time.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I don't really like it either, because the more gear they introduce in the game, the harder it is for a normal player that plays the game on a normal basis to get geared out, right? It's very difficult already. Even for someone like me who plays the game all the freaking time, man, I still don't have ward sets for everything. I still don't have BIS PvP gear for my sets. Like, man, I've been trying to get gear for a while, and it's just like, it's so scattered. There's so many different gear sets you feel like you have to get in the game. And I understand, like, sure, it's a good way to get players to continuously play the game, to give you something to work towards, but that particular grind feels bad to me, and it's probably my absolute biggest complaint about New World, and has been for a very long time. It's just the sheer amount of different sets you have to have, and not only the sheer amount, but how hard it is to actually get those sets together and then get them bumped up to like a high enough gear score to be relevant. It is a very, very time-consuming grind. And then also the organization of all that gear is a pretty big nightmare. So I don't know what the answer is there, but I was a little bit disappointed to see them. The perks on some of that PvP gear is kind of cool, but I was a little bit disappointed to see that implemented into the game. For me, I don't like that for I don't like that for like kind of the direction of where it's going, because that just means, well, now I'm gonna have to go get all these sets now. I'm gonna have to, and then those are sets that I literally will not be able to use if I go try to run an expedition or something. Like, they're literally useless, man. So I'm gonna have to be forced to go put on other gear, and it's just like, then that stuff isn't even viable really in the open world unless you get into PvP. Like that's the only way in which it's viable. See, like right now, at least if you have like something like Keen and Vicious, it may not be like this, like having Corruption Bane or something, but at least it's still good. You know what I mean? Like at least you still use it. With those, you can't. You can't use them. So I don't know, man. I don't like it very much, but it is what it is. Let's move on from that topic, Danneh, and let's talk about everything we've talked about so far. Has kind of led us down to this road that we're about to be on right here, and that is the topic of arenas. This is near and dear to my heart, Danneh. I love arenas. I love small scale PvP. This is more my realm than large scale. I know you're a very big large scale guy, so I'm very interested to hear like what your take on arenas has been so far, how your experience has been, if you've liked them. Like, give us the rundown, man.
Yeah, so typically when I want to do PvP, I want to see a field full of people just battling it out in absolute chaos and carnage, but I was nervous that they were going to mess it up. To be completely honest, I was like, they're gonna put us on a field.
What faith you have, Dad?
Yeah, I know, man. I love you, really, Nua. But no, I was nervous. I had this vision in my head that it was going to be a grass field, and when you go to the edge of the map, you have those yellow lines, just those yellow. I thought it was going to be like a yellow force field that just shrunk in.
Oh no, yeah.
And when I first saw, I was on Discord chilling. I was like, BDLG's in the arenas, and I was just screaming because I was like, oh my god, it looks amazing. Like visually, it's absolutely stunning. The environmental team, or whatever you want to call them, designers on the team have just smashed.
There's a crowd up there. There's a crowd up there cheering and everything. It's really cool.
Just mega. And then when the fire comes in, I was scared it's gonna be just a yellow force field of just blood. It's horrible. But the fire, when you get close, it's bad. But it's just fantastic. Like genuinely, it's a the way they've delivered it. I think the baseline, like the rest of New World, the baseline is mega. And we can start to pick holes in it now. But for me, the baseline is just brilliant, and I'm very, 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 very excited. To be honest, this is awesome. I love it.
So as a large scale PvPer, have you had fun playing 3v3 small scale arenas?
Absolutely. I took my build that I use for Laz, my build that I use for wars. I'm just, I'm so lazy. So I use the same build for everything and try and make it work. And we went in there. And Brian, if you're watching, man, it was great fighting you did. No, and I genuinely had the greatest time. It was really interesting to see what people were coming out with build wise. Sword, shield, bow, for example. I saw ice gauntlet, blunderbuss, lifestaff. There's just a variety of weapons coming out and a variety of builds, and I think that's very, very exciting. And I'm excited to see how this plays on live as well with our own gear.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the part that's like very, very interesting. Is I've had a lot of people ask me so far, like, what do you think the meta is going to be in arenas? It's like, man, I honestly don't know from playing in the PTR arenas. I have no idea, because everyone's just trying out so many different things. There's just so many different builds coming in, and no one has good gear on the PTR, right? Like you have just trash gear. I mean, I think I have logging luck on every piece of gear that I have in there, among some other crappy perks. So it's like you can't really see what the meta is going shake up to be without your perks and your actual gear and access to all those things. But what you can do, you can kind of speculate about it a little bit, but you can go in there and at least see how the arenas function, how they work. And so far, man, I will tell you, Danneh, I've had a lot of fun in there, man. I love small scale PvP. It is what I like the most about MMOs. Whenever we played ESO all the time, I lived in Battlegrounds all the time. I didn't really care about Cyrodiil so much, just because I'm the opposite of you, Danneh. I don't like to go out into the battlefield and just have a bazillion people around there. I like small, intimate, almost like dual type of PvP. I feel like in that setting, I feel like that's where people's individual skill level really can shine. In a war, you can to an extent, but in a war, you can also just have a battle ball Zerg mentality. And if you have a good group of people that listen and are running like meta builds, and they're just running around in this battle ball and they're doing what they're supposed to do, synchronizing their CCs, you can basically win a war, right? And so basically what it boils down to is an organized group versus an unorganized unorganized group. Who's the most organized with that 50 man versus who's not? And there's some individual skill in there. I'm not going to discount that, but I feel like in 3v3 arenas, a lot of that stuff just really gets exposed. Your individual skill just completely, there's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to go. You can't run around with the Zerg. You're in there, and you're in there. Your individual skill level is either going to shine or it's not. And those that's where I just really enjoy that style of intimate PvP. So my experience so far in the arenas has been awesome, dude. I have loved every moment of it. We've won some really epic arena fights. We've lost some really close ones. We've had some really close ones. I've gotten one shot at a bunch of times in there. I've one shot other people a bunch of times in there. You know, it's just fun. It's fun to mess around with the builds. It's fun to go in there and play and queue up. And so far, I have loved it, man. I honestly still am not sure what the meta is going to be. I really don't know at this point. I have no idea. With all the changes coming in, I feel like there's going to be, I almost want to say it's going to be kind of a heavier based, almost heavy armor, medium armor, heavy armor versus light armor in there with some light healers, and people are going to be pilling for them. But I have no idea, man. It's so hard to speculate right now. But what do you think? Do you have any thoughts on maybe what the meta might shake out to be in there?
I honestly have no idea, just like you, because I've played against teams of 3 bow spears, for example, and they absolutely destroy us. Then I've played with a bow spear, with a medium, and then a heavy, and you just ignore the bow spear, and without that super high damage, they can't do anything to an individual. So I don't know. There's so many, such a variety, and I think, like you say, with the gear that we've got, it's really hard to tell, but I'm sure something will come through. I'm sure there'll be a kind of the norm to run something that's kind of ideal, maybe a like a bruiser, a healer, and a high DPS or something, and then everyone has their own individual roles. But it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. Absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely will be. And I guess we'll see what's going to shake up. So that brings us to kind of the last thing I want to talk about here before we wrap this bad boy up. And we talked a little bit about some of the rewards you get from the PvP reward track, which is this PvP specific gear. So we've already kind of hashed that out. But let's talk about some of the other rewards you get, man. Have you gotten any rewards yet from this PvP reward track? And what were they? And what are your thoughts?
My ancient potions. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I've kind of got two minds, because I feel like the arenas is going to potentially do to health potions what crafting has done to Iron Guardsman insignias. I feel like they're going to shoot up in price, because you can do 2 or 3 arenas and you are just chugging back health pots. And on our server, I don't know about yours, they're like 10 gold a piece now. So you're going to have to PvE to PvP, which for me, I don't mind. But if you just want to log on the evening and play some arenas, you ain't going to have the health pots unless you got money. So yeah, in short, I'm not sure why there is PvE. There seems to be, I don't mind that they're there, but it's very heavily led, at least in the early stages of PvE. Like I'm looking at a screenshot here. There's 1 faction tokens and then ancient potions and lost potions. It's like, why, man? Just give me some health pots or something that I can go back into the game with, because there's a lot of people that have quit the game waiting for something like this so they can just log in and play arenas all day. And if they have to go out and farm in Windswood to get their health pots, they're probably not going to be playing the game. So I don't know. I feel like it's not a bad thing, because to get to 200 tracks or something across a period of 200 tracks, or checkpoint 1, checkpoint 2, they've called them tracks. You're going to get some good stuff. Like across the whole thing, you're going to get some good stuff. But I feel like they need to really bring in this, the consumables part of this that you actually use within the arenas to allow us to go back in without that worry, oh shit, it's going to cost me a lot of money or a load of time farming stuff that I just don't want to farm.
Yeah, I agree. That was exactly my thought process too. Whenever I was playing through these arenas on stream the other day, that whenever I finished up the first track, my options were 155 gold, a stack of Beastbane potions, or a stack of ancient ward potions. And I looked at that for a minute, man, and I just kind of shook my head, and I was like, bro, what is this? Like, this is not. this is not why I want to play arenas. I don't want to play arenas to get rewarded with PvE gear. I don't want to go PvE. I want to continue to play arenas. So give me rewards. It's going to allow me to continue to play arenas. Gold is great. Like, give me gold. Give me the option of gold. Give me at the very low level, whenever I just hit 1, give me like 2 health pots or a stack of 3 health pots. Like, give me a stack of, or I mean, even a stack of 5 health pots, man. Come on now. Give me a stack of 5 health pots or an option of health pots or mana pots, right? Like, give me gold, health pots, mana pots. And then on maybe the next tier up, give me the option of having like a honing stone or some incense and then gold. And then give me gold and then a stack of 10 and a stack of 10 or something, like, don't give me, man, ward potions, bro. Nobody wants those in PvP, man.
The images are kind of nice. Like, they've got some good designs, so it's nice to show them off. But like, show them off somewhere else. Yeah. Put them in some other reward track, man. Give PvE players a reward track too, or something. Don't. Yeah, I don't know, man. I was very disappointed in that, but hopefully that won't make it to live. Hopefully they'll adjust those rewards before they do, and it'll be a good spot. Overall, though, man, I have had probably some of the most fun I've had in New World so far in those arenas, man. I have absolutely loved them. I lived there for a couple days, and I'm going to be back on the PTR again a lot this week, I'm sure, much more. So it's been fun, man. The arenas are definitely overall positive, in my opinion. You have any final thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up, Danny? No, maybe just a good question. So where our current faction symbols are, Marauders, Syndicate, Covenant, they've now changed, haven't they? So they have the PvP symbol.
Yes, they are.
Do you think that this is a longer plan to maybe bin off factions?
It's very interesting, because to answer that question, my answer is yes. Yes, I do. Because if you look on the PTR as well, none of the map has any colors. Have you noticed that on the PTR? Not even the top part. Every other time I've been on the PTR. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, if I don't know if it's I feel like it's been put into the game, because if you spam you on my keyboard to go PvP on, PvP off, it comes back, but it's definitely, like you're saying, it's definitely there to not be there.
Yeah, I feel like at some point maybe that factions are going to go away, and I don't know exactly how I feel about that. To me, I kind of lean towards this is probably the better option. I know maybe you don't want to hear that, Danny, but
I'm all for it. Actually, I think it's yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I noticed first on stream. Whenever I opened up the map, I was like, whoa, this is weird. There's no colors here. And I didn't really think a lot about it until I did look down there and seen that icon was completely changed. And it kind of evolves as you level up your PvP reward track, And so I was thinking, this is odd. It's kind of odd. And I've had this conversation a lot with the stream about how I feel like the territory control system is just broken in New World, because right now, bring up a great point, man. You're going to get me on a rant here, but I can't help it. I got to go on it anyway. Right now, man, when you own territory, like some of these companies, man, I'm not discounting any companies from being good by any stretch. There are really good companies that own territory, hands down, no doubt. But there are companies in the game that have been lucky enough to own territory from the beginning of the game, and they were able to just simply snowball that money into being ahead of the meta on every turn. And so it wasn't that they necessarily were full of a bunch of good players. It's that they had the money to gear out everyone when these other companies couldn't, just because they weren't necessarily as lucky. And that has been a problem that has plagued this game from day one, man. Like, there's companies out there that are filthy rich, and then other players that are struggling to make ends meet that may be an excellent player, but this excellent player can't even get slotted on a war roster, can't even do anything in PvP, can't even be a good player because they don't have the means to get the gear to be there. And that's all because of this very toxic like riches system that Amazon has implemented into the game. And for me, I just don't think that's healthy for the overall game. I like wars. I enjoy participating in them. I'm a PvP guy. I like it. I like the concept that they have created with this territory ownership and control. In practice, I personally think it's toxic for the game. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be one of the downfalls of New World if they don't completely rework that system. People are going to get tilted, man. It won't be necessarily maybe the destruction of it, but it will be the destruction of it to a point where New World will be a very niche game. They'll have a very niche community, and the game will never be a big scale MMO. I don't ever see it be that way, because people are going to get tilted at how that works, man, and it's a problem. And so for that reason, Yes, I think that down the road, I do think that factions will not be a thing anymore. I also think that territory control may not be a thing anymore. And I think that wars may be an instance-based thing that you jump into, just like PV, just like OPR, just like other things, with maybe some other conditions in there. That's my thought process, man, but we'll see. What do you think, man? You probably highly disagree, and you're probably sitting there thinking, BDLG, you freaking suck, man. That's what I like about the freaking game, and you're just destroying it all, man. Like,
no,
screw you, buddy. Yeah.
To be completely honest, I mirror a lot of your thoughts. I would still like to see companies holding territories, but you know, my end vision or my end want for the game is that, you know, the battles are larger, so it's, you know, it's 150 versus 150, and the companies can only choose 100, and they have to bring in someone else. If the factions are going to stay, if the factions are going to go, keep them nice, small, keep them interesting, make the invasions actually happen inside the towns, not the forts. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
I don't know.
Cool.
There's a lot of things that I want to see happen to the game.
That'd be really cool. I've never thought about that before, dude. Like the actual invasion in the town, that'd be sick.
We'll end up down a rabbit hole just chatting.
We would.
But like, in short, yes, I would like to see the factions go. I think it would be, you know, at the moment, there is only one reason to be in a faction, and that is for the fort bonuses, which, you know, up until this current patch have been terrible. No one really cares about them. So there has been no reason. You've got kind of an alliance and some friends and whatnot, but you know, the server I'm on, it ends up they're just bickering between each other. Who gets through the war and who gets through that? So, get rid of it. Fight. Well, everyone fights everyone.
And that's the toxicity also that wars bring into the server, man. You have these people that get really mad whenever they feel like they've gotten sniped. They feel like a war's gotten sniped from them. You know, you have these two companies that don't even know each other. You have this company of 10 friends that get together and they're like, hey, man, this looks really fun to go push this territory. Maybe we can get to some PvP. And then they declare and they happen to win the bid, not even knowing that there was a lot of server politics going on. And then they get absolutely shunned from the server because they sniped it out from underneath somebody. It's like, guys, come on, man. Come on, dude. Those guys probably didn't even know. They didn't even have, and now you guys are like shunning them and pooping all over them and telling them how, like, dude, they're just trying to play the game, man. And it's not even their fault. Like, it's just the design of that whole system is just toxic. It just breeds toxicity into the game. And I don't know, man. I don't think it's great for the long-term longevity health of New World. I just don't. And we'll see what happens, Danneh. I don't know. I'm sure people are going to like crucify me and get mad at me and cuss me out in Discord DMs, but I don't care, man. I think it's terrible for the game. And I wouldn't be mad if they went away. I would much prefer us to get our PvP in other ways, man, to be honest.
The game's evolved, you know, from where it was to where it is now. The game's evolved, and it is what it is. We got to move with it. And you know, every time I start stream, I play videos from the preview and I reminisce of the good old days before the lag came in. And you know, it is what it is. We got to move on. So I fully mirror your thoughts, man. It's been a pleasure chatting, dude. It's been awesome.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for coming on, Danneh. Thank you for being here, and thank you for replacing Red. You're a lot more pleasant to look at, and your voice doesn't sound like a grizzly bear today. So at least we can have a chat. Yeah, Red sounds awful. I feel a little bit bad for him right now. But all right, man. That's going to move us on into the company of the week. I don't know if Red's still here, so I'm just going to pause for a moment and see if we have a drop. You talked during the drop, Danneh. That was on you, not me.
Sorry,
all right.
Sorry, bro.
The company of the week this week is called the Stagmoon Defenders. They're in EU. They're over there with you, Danneh. The Stagmoon Defenders. It says they're a PvX-focused marauder company founded in the beta on the EU Sculptor server. They quickly established themselves as one of the front-running companies. Oh, snap. It says they're currently looking for players to join both their first mainly PvP focused and second mainly PvE focused companies. So it sounds like they have a spot for everyone. So it says they prioritize faction above company and company above self and strive to maintain server balance above all. So it sounds like they're not trying to be toxic. They're trying to just have a good time. Is what it sounds like to me. Just trying to have some good competitive PvP. So if you guys plan on or want to be a part of the Stagmoon Defenders, make sure to go check them out, and we'll make sure to link them in the description everywhere this podcast can be found. So that, Danneh, is about to wrap this bad boy up. Danneh, thanks again for being here, buddy. And yeah, man, do you have any final thoughts, any final words?
No, thanks for having me. Good chatting, good catching up, good reminiscing about what could happen in the future of New World. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, man, as always, dude.
Yeah, good times, good episode. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys in another episode of New World to Go.